Hey everyone, Ryan here at etrailer. Today on our 2018 Ford F-150 Raptor, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Roadmaster Flexo-Coil high-powered diode wiring kit. So there's going to be 5 main components needed to flat tow your Raptor down the road. The base plate is going to be one of them, and that's going to give us a solid and reliable connection point. You're also going to need a tow bar. And so the tow bar connects to the base plate, which goes and connects to the back of your motorhome. So that's really going to be what is pulling your truck down the road behind your motorhome. The other component is safety cables. And so safety cables are going to connect here at the base plate to the hitch on your motorhome, and those are going to be there in the event of a catastrophic disconnect. You're going to have something that keeps your two vehicles together. The other component that you're going to need will be tow bar wiring. So the wiring is going to transfer the lighting signals from the back of your motorhome to the back of your truck, keeping you safe and legal. And last but not least, you're also going to need a braking system. And that braking system is going to apply the brakes inside of your truck whenever you hit the brakes in your motorhome. That way the truck can slow itself down and you're not relying entirely on the motorhome to do all the work. So the whole purpose of the diode wiring is to transfer the lighting signals from the back of your motorhome to the back of your truck. That's going to help keep you safe and legal. So they're going to provide us with all those necessary lighting functions. We're going to have our turn signals, our running lights, and our brake lights. Now when it comes down to it, the diode wiring is really going to be our only feasible option to get those signals back here. And that's because the only other two options would be bulb and socket, which you cannot install in these taillights. There's just not enough room. And the other one will be magnetic lighting. And that magnetic lighting, not only is it tough to find a spot to actually stick it to the back of your truck, but a lot of the Fords are aluminum, and as we all know, magnets will not stick to aluminum. And in my opinion, the diode wiring is the best choice anyway. It doesn't require any setup once you have it installed, other than just plugging it into the back of your motorhome. And since it uses diodes, those diodes are going to protect your truck's factory wiring if an issue or short were to occur on the motorhome side. So the kit's also going to come with a 6-way plug that you mount here at the front of your truck, as well as a coiled cord that plugs in to the front of your truck to the back of your motorhome. Now since it is coiled, you're not going to have to worry about it dragging the ground or anything like that whenever you're going straight down the road. But whenever you make those wide turns, it'll stretch out, giving you that length that you need. So the plug itself can be nicely mounted, kind of out of sight and out of mind. That way you don't have to take away from the looks of your truck. And it's going to have a spring-loaded cap and a seal. That way when you're not using it, everything will stay closed up. Especially, that's important with these Raptors. They tend to go off-roading a lot in them. And with everything sealed up, you're not going to have to worry about too much dirt and debris getting inside, potentially damaging the terminals inside. Now, I do recommend going a step further and every now and again applying some dielectric grease on them. That'll just help them keep them that much more protected. So ultimately, the best thing about diodes is that you know your truck's electrical system is protected. You're not going to have to set anything up every time you want to flat tow, and you know they're going to work the way they're supposed to. Now as far as the installation goes, believe it or not, in this case, it's one of the easiest ones that I've done. As far as the routing goes, which is the most time-consuming part, actually went by relatively quick. You're able to actually run the wiring through the frame rail to know that it's protected, and we shouldn't have to worry about anything funny happening. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and wire everything up together now. To begin our install, we're going to be here at the front of our truck. We're going to take our bundle of wiring and run it from the front to the back. Now what I like to do is give myself a foot or so. I haven't quite figured out where I'm going to mount our plug yet. So I just give myself more than enough room so I'm not limited up here. So I kind of like to just kind of tie that off. And what I actually did was run our wiring in its entirety through the frame rail. So wiring goes into the frame rail here, all the way to the back. And the way that I did that was use a pull wire. So I'll kind of give you an example. We'll just kind of follow the frame back. So the wiring is inside of the frame, and so it comes up along through here, back behind our shock, and continues towards the back of the truck. So the way I was able to get our wiring ran all the way to the back through the frame was to use a pull wire. I just used a 5 or 6 foot piece of nylon air tubing. You could use a coat hanger or another thick piece of wire, something like that. But what I did was I'd find a larger opening in the frame and run the wire forward. Usually I go as far as I can, but this is kind of just to give you an example. And so what I'd do is I'd tape our diode wiring to this end of the pull wire, so it's connected to it. You're able to pull it through, bring it out through this side, and more or less repeat that process all the way along the frame rail. And that'll make it a lot easier as opposed to just trying to naturally kind of fish it all the way back. With that being said, wiring's protected inside of here. That's important, especially with this Raptor. If our customer decides to take it off-roading or anything like that, it's going to be protected. It just keeps running through. And every now and again, I did this where the wiring would come and I just kind of secure it with a zip tie. And it just keeps coming all the way through the frame. It just continues on. You can kind of see a little bit of it there. And it actually dropped out right here at the bottom opening of our frame rail. Now at this point, what I'm going to do, just for a little bit cleaner look and easier install, I'm going to take the end of our wire. We're actually going to bring it up through the top part of our frame. So you kind of just push it straight up and pull it through like that. Now we're going to separate the wires from each other. So you'll grab a pair of snips, and here at the end, kind of just cut a small slit in between each wire. We're going to pull these apart all the way up to the top of our frame here. We'll do that with each individual wire. With all of our wires separated, we're going to kind of swing the green, brown, and yellow one out of the way. We're going to focus on getting the white one hooked up. So this is a ground wire, and conveniently enough, there is a factory ground right there. So that's where we're going to ground this white wire. So we're just going to kind of eyeball the length, cut off the extra, we're going to peel back the insulation on the end. Kind of twist it. I'm going to double it over. That's because I'm using a little bit larger ring terminal that comes included. The one that comes included will work. You'll just have to cut out a small opening in it. That way you can kind of slide it around that bolt once we take it out. We're going to crimp this on. We'll slide it over the bare end of the wire. And then we can take that bolt out. So we'll grab a 10mm socket. Pull this completely out. Take the bolt, pass it through our ring terminal, back through the other factory grounds, and then we're just going to tighten it back up, ensuring that we have a good ground. So now we can move back on top, lower our tailgate, and pull our taillights out. To get the lights out, we're going to have two 8mm screws. We'll get those out. And then there's going to be some alignment pins that you can't see behind the taillight, and we're going to have to free those. So what you want to do is make sure you want to pull straight back as you can. You don't want to try to wiggle it too much side to side. That way we don't have to worry about those breaking. And pull out just like that. Those are the alignment pins I mentioned. But once we have it out, we'll go ahead and disconnect our wiring. There's a tab right here in the middle. Push down on it, pull it out. Now we can set our taillight to the side. The other taillight on the other side of the truck set up the same way. So we'll pull that one out too. So I went ahead and tested our wiring. And the signals that we were looking for is our running lights. We're over here on the driver's side, by the way. The running light signal is going to come from this blue wire with a light gray stripe. We'll kind of peel this loom back to give us a little more space to work. The other signal we were looking for was our stop lamps. And so the stop lamp signal is going to be this light gray wire with a orange stripe. So now that we identified our signals here, what we can do is cut these wires and get them prepared to be all hooked up. So what I'm going to do is kind of peel this tape off, give us a little more room here. So we'll grab our gray and orange and blue and gray wire and get those cut. Then we're going to strip back the insulation on all the ends. And on each end, after we strip that insulation off, we're going to grab a blue spade terminal, comes with the kit, and crimp that on. Since these wires are pretty thin, I like to kind of just lightly pull, make sure we got a good connection. So I'll go ahead and repeat that process for our 3 remaining ends. So this is what our ends are going to look like once we have our terminals crimped on. And now what we can do is feed up that wiring that we ran back here. So I just dropped a pull wire down through the opening here in our tail light. And what we're going to do is take our yellow and brown wire, tape it to the pull wire and pull them up. What we're also going to do is take an extra length of wire. This is something you'll have to pick up separately. I recommend maybe about 10 foot of it because we're going to pull this up too, and this is going to be a jumper wire. So this is going to run from the driver's side of our truck over to the passenger side. So now would be a good opportunity to run this up as well. Once I have them taped up, I'm going to go ahead and pull them up into the taillight pocket. So I went ahead and stripped back the insulation on all 3 ends of our wires. What we're going to do is take the yellow wire, we're going to crimp on a blue spade terminal. And these wires are going to be a little bit different. So the brown wires for our taillights, this black wire here, the extra one, that's going to be our jumper. So we're going to take these 2 ends, twist them together. We're going to take the yellow spade terminal and use that one to crimp them 2 together. Now we got everything hooked up, we can grab our diodes. And the way the diodes are going to work is the side that says out has a single diode. That's going to face or connect to the ends of the wires closest to our factory connector plug here. So we'll go color for color. So the blue wire into that side. Take the other side of the blue wire, plug it into the N terminal. And since the blue wire is for our taillights, we're going to take our brown wire that's connected to the black, plug that into the other side. The the gray wire with the orange stripe work the same way. Take the out terminal on the diode, plug that in to the side closest to our factory plug. Other end of the gray and orange wire will go to the N terminal, and then our yellow wire will plug into the last remaining one there. And that's what it'll look like once we have the driver's side all connected. Now we're going to kind of secure the diodes so they're not bouncing around in the back of our truck. What I'm going to do is peel that backing paper off, the two-sided tape, on the bottom of our diodes. I'm just going to stick these together. Then I'll just grab a zip tie and some tape and just kind of secure it to that factory wiring there. So here's what it looks like once I kind of have it all taped up and secured. From there, we can just plug our connector back into the tail light and reinstall it the opposite way that we removed it. We'll make sure you get the alignment pins lined up. That way the tail light is completely secure. So now back under the truck, we can run our black jumper wire and our green wire over to the passenger side taillight pocket. So the black wire runs up to here. And once we get to this point, here's where our green wire comes out. And I just follow this along. It's a little tricky to see up above the spare tire, but that's where it goes. And I just secured it along the way using some zip ties. And what I've done is I already dropped our pull wire down through that taillight pocket. Just taped up our black and green wire. Then we can go back up top and pull our wire to get our wires into the taillight pocket. And I hooked them up pretty much exactly the same way that we did the other side. Really the only difference being one wire is going to be a different color. So this diode, this is for our taillights. So the factory taillight signal is blue with a gray stripe. Side closest connector goes into the single out terminal on the diode. Other side of the blue wire, that terminal, and our black jumper wire that we ran over will get connected to that side. This diode, our stop or brake light signal, is actually this dark green wire with the orange stripe. So color for color. And then we used our green wire for our stop and turn and plugged it into that diode. Now that we have them all hooked up, we can just re-secure them the same way we did the other side. So I went ahead and secured it and taped everything up. And we can plug our tail light back in and reinstall it. So now we can go ahead and come up to the front and get our plug hooked up. So the first thing we want to do to hook up our plug is take our wiring, separate it, and strip back the insulation on the ends a little bit. We grab our plug and take the rubber cover and slide our wires through it. Now at the moment, I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to actually mount our plug, so I'm just going to hook it up. That way we can test it and know that everything works. And after I get some of my other flat toe components installed and figure out where I want to put them, we can permanently mount this up. But if we flip it over, on the back we're going to have 6 terminals, and they're going to be labeled. We're going to be using 4 of them. We're going to use TM for taillights, so our brown wire will go there. And the way you put it in is there will be little Phillips head screws, set screws. I'm going to back those all the way out. But moving on, right here we're going to have GD. That'll be ground, so our white wire will go there. Here we'll have LT for left turn, so our yellow wire will go to that one. And right here we're going to have RT for right turn, and so our green wire will go there. We'll get them hooked up. We'll start with our brown taillight wire. Slide it into the TM terminal. And we're going to tighten down that set screw. Once we have a good connection, I'll just repeat that process for the remaining 3 wires. So this is what it looks like once we have everything hooked up. And what we'll do is take our dust cap, put that in place, then we can hook it up and test it to make sure it's working. Once we verify everything is working, what you can always do too is cover up your terminals with some silicone and tape it up real good, and that'll help prevent any corrosion or anything like that that could get inside and potentially damage your connection. So I went ahead and plugged into a tester, that way we could test our wiring. If you don't have a tester box, you could always just plug into your motorhome and do it that way. So I'll go ahead and check our left turn, our right turn signal, our brake lights, and our running lights. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster Flexo-Coil high power diode wiring kit on our 2018 Ford F-150 Raptor.